Hey guys, happy full moon in Aquarius and welcome to this video. So in this video, we are going to be going over all 12 zodiac signs and looking at how the full moon in Aquarius is going to be affecting your birth chart according to your rising sign. Now, I do recommend knowing your rising sign for this video. It will be extremely beneficial as that will be the most accurate horoscope. However, if you don't know your rising sign, as I know some of us do not know it, that's okay. I would still recommend fast forwarding through this and listening for both your sun sign, and if you do know it, also listen for your moon sign. So let's talk about the full moon in Aquarius. This is a cycle that began on February 9th, 2024. So think back for a second on what seeds you planted at the beginning of February. It is likely that the seeds that you planted in February of 2024 are blooming during this full moon happening on Monday, August 19th. So the full moon in Aquarius is opposite to the sun in Leo. So understand that Leo and Aquarius are opposite signs, meaning that they share the same axis, but they are completely different energies. So Leo is fixed fire. It's ruled by the sun, the brightest, hottest object in our solar system. And of course, the sun is at home in Leo. So it's comfortable, it's shining, it is really thriving. Opposite is Aquarius. Aquarius is fixed air, very different from fire and much cooler. It's ruled by the planet Saturn, which is on the opposite end of the spectrum of the sun. It's one of the coldest planets. In traditional astrology, it is the coldest planet. Once we found out about Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto, that changed things. But if we go by the visible planets, Saturn is basically at the end of the visible planets. And so the sun is at the beginning and Saturn is at the end. And this is where we get Leo Aquarius. So understand that during a full moon, the sun is in the sign of Leo in this case, and the moon is in Aquarius, which means that we have basically what's known as an opposition between the sun and the moon. Now, this can cause us to really feel a lot of emotions coming up and possibly even create some feelings of tension, frustration, or really just having to look at things that you haven't looked at before. One thing I always say about full moons is they illuminate the things you don't always want to see. This is the moon, which represents our more private self. I think about it like your naked self. You don't share that with many people. But suddenly, it's like a spotlight is being shown on you. Shined on you? Shown? Not sure, but you get it. The spotlight's on you, and now you're exposed. You're vulnerable, and emotions are coming up, and you're seeing things you've never seen before. This is what full moons activate for us. So looking in the context of the sun in Leo and the moon in Aquarius, this is like the main character and the stage crew, right? I love Leo Aquarius because the understanding of these two signs in relation to one another is very simply put. Leo is the main character. It is the sign of the celebrity. In fact, a lot of celebrities have Leo placements. Leo is the star, right? Known for, of course, being ruled by the sun, which is the brightest, most important star in our solar system. So Leo is truly that sign of self, of me, of bright and shining energy. It's main, front and center, full-blown main character energy. Opposite is Aquarius. Aquarius is hanging out behind the scenes, right? Aquarius is the behind the scenes person. It is the lighting, right? The tech crew, the stage crew, the props, the production. Aquarius is the one that makes it all happen, but Aquarius is not the one that is front and center looking to be the star of the show. So this is where these two sister signs, so to speak, really play off of one another, right? So Aquarius does all the technology, creates the stage, makes sure everything is working properly, all the tech, but it's not a sign that wants to be visible. Aquarius is known for being detached, for being a bit colder, very intellectual, very techy, but not social in the sense that it wants to, again, be at the front of the room. Leo is the one at the front of the room, right? Leo is the one on stage. So that's why these two signs, especially when we have a full moon, are really bringing up feelings of myself versus everybody else. Because Leo is a very, in some ways, self-oriented sign. And I know this can get a bad rep for being like self-absorbed. In a positive note, we want to look at this like self-love. So Leo is super focused on the self, but Aquarius is the sign of the humanitarian. And so I always say about Aquarius, it wants to save the world, right? Really focused on humanity and the collective really rising up, but it doesn't necessarily want to be a part of the world. It doesn't want to be the one on stage singing and dancing. It wants to be in the background, making it happen, not necessarily being seen for that, but knowing that it's doing that and it's the reason for everything. So this is where, as we go into the horoscopes, which I will be diving into in just a second, we're going to look at how this sun in Leo is opposing the moon in Aquarius in your chart. And I want you to think about how this is showing up in your life. Again, going back to February 9th, what was beginning for you then? What do you feel like is reaching a culmination right now? As full moons are times of culmination, celebration, realization, and letting go. This is a great opportunity to release certain things that might be holding you back, especially being that these are two fixed signs. These might be areas of your life that you don't often like to change. And now this full moon is illuminating the changes that need to be made. So the question of the Leo Aquarius and the full moon in Aquarius energy is that yes, the Leo sun might be thriving, but the humanitarian moon in Aquarius is stepping into Leo season saying you might be thriving, but are you giving back to everybody else? Is everybody else thriving, or is it just you, Leo? So we're gonna dive in, like I said, so make sure you skip ahead. I know this video looks super long, but really it's not, because all you have to do at this point now is just go ahead to your rising sign. And again, I do recommend, if you know your, of course, probably everyone knows their sun, but if you also know your moon sign, go ahead and listen for those too. But I do wanna make special note and just disclaimer, the accuracy is going to be at the with the rising sign. So make sure you skip ahead for your rising sign and listen in what you can expect for the full moon in Aquarius. Okay, so diving into all 12 rising signs, one special point I want to make before getting into everything is the fact that this full moon is also in square with Uranus, the planet of sudden disruption, change, innovation, and revolution. I call this the WTF planet because you never know what you can get with Uranus. The fact that the sun and the moon are squaring this planet, I just want to make it clear that this is the moon where you need to expect the unexpected. Okay, you might think things are going one way and then suddenly, total detour, we switch it around. That's just characteristic of a retrograde energy with Mercury. Now you're dealing with Uranus involved during this full moon. It's a lot of random, unexpected stuff. So I will be touching on that as I get into every single horoscope and rising sign, but I did want to make a special note that this particular full moon is different in the fact that it's activating 3 areas of our chart and the fact that it's including this very unpredictable Uranian energy. Okay, Aries rising. So Aries rising, the sun has been hanging out in your 5th house of children, dating, romance, and creativity. So it's likely that over the last month, you've really been focusing on how you can better foster and nurture your own creativity and those projects that are really passionate to you. This could be spending more time with your children. This could be really getting into more fun with your romantic life, and maybe you started dating again, or you've added the spark back into your dating life. All of these things are about you, Aries rising, but now suddenly the full moon in your 11th house of friends, networking, and community is asking you to consider, well, all right, I can create a lot, but am I sharing that with the world? Right? Are you able to bring your creative passions and projects and actually use them as something that other people can benefit from? So I really want to consider, Aries rising, who in your life helps you to reach your goals and dreams. Pay attention to these people, as they might play a really special part during this full moon. You also might just notice that you're feeling more inclined to get in part of a community. You might want to connect with your online community, maybe your local community, or just friends in general that either you've been in communication with or not. Either way, it is a retrograde right now, so these might be people you haven't talked to in a while. This is a great opportunity, Aries rising, to reconnect with friends, with community, and also evaluate if you feel comfortable sharing the things that you've created with these groups of people and hopefully acting as a way of serving them. But you gotta know, Aries rising, that it comes from a place of self-worth. And the Uranus energy could be activating these feelings of, do I feel worthy or do I feel like a fraud? And the sun in Leo hates lying. It hates feeling like a fraud because it's so focused on authenticity. So look at how you can use your authenticity to better show up in your social circle, in your community, and allow your feelings of self-worth and pride and self-esteem to fuel how you show up in these spaces. Bonus points, Aries rising, is that your friends could even give you or you could receive unexpected money or resources that you've been needing from your community. So you might be in luck, Aries risings, as this is a very potent and opportune time to benefit from the people, the friends in your life. Taurus risings, you are revolutionizing your life during this full moon. The sun has been hanging out in your fourth house of home and family. So you might have noticed over the last month that you've been prioritizing more in terms of your home, maybe your children, maybe even just your physical home, either redecorating it or just spending more time at home. Now, suddenly, the full moon is activating your 10th house of career, public image, and reputation. And so, the question and the feelings that might be arising from my Taurus risings is, am I showing up fully in my career? Am I making sure that I'm prioritizing my career? Are there areas in my career that I need to release? Is there something in terms of the way that the world sees me, maybe a title that I hold that I'm no longer resonating with? The Uranus energy is getting activated in your first house, which essentially is all about you. Taurus risings you are literally looking at how you can change up who you are, how you show up in the world, and even how you are with your most intimate people at home. So this is really the opportunity. This is that full moon of change, which I know as a fixed rising sign. Fixed risings, I want to make this clear, are really feeling the full moon the most. So this is really the full moon for my fixed risings that's going to change the core components of your life, who you are, where you live, where you come from, what you're known for. These are all questions, especially for my Taurus risings, that might be coming up for you. Another question that I did write down for my Taurus risings is, do I feel okay with being different and standing out in some way? And this is because the 10th house Aquarius energy is known for being different and eclectic. And you've got Uranus in your first house, which has been there for a while, but it's getting activated during this full moon, which essentially means that you might be really thinking about how you can do things in a revolutionary way, how you can be different, how you'll stand out, how maybe the things that matter to you and the ways in which you identify who you are and how you are in the world are not the same as everybody else, not normal, so to speak. Is that okay with you, Taurus risings? You might be feeling those feelings coming up during this full moon. So take the time to really consider this, because I wouldn't be surprised if you're a Taurus rising listening and this full moon completely motivates you to make some very fundamental changes to your life, including yourself, your home life, and even your career and the way that the world sees you. Gemini rising, this full moon is activating your house of higher education and belief systems. Also, it happens to be the house of long distance travel and anything that is foreign. So what's really cool about this is Gemini risings, you guys are already thinkers. You love thinking, you love ideas, you love really ruminating over topics that your mind can really sink its teeth into. Now, during this full moon, you've got the sun in your third house, which is all about the lower mind, right? The basic things you need to know, the basic data, the facts, the formulas. But then you've got the moon in your ninth house, which is all about expanding your mind. So this full moon is really activating the things you know versus the things that you want to know. What you know that's local to you, but maybe what you want to know that's more foreign to you. So this is really about expansion, Gemini risings. Now, again, Mercury's retrograde, which of course, as a Gemini rising, you are getting heavily affected by that. So understand that you might have to take your time in thinking and learning, and you might just have to slow things down when it comes to processing new information. However, this is a great time to download new information, to receive it, to think about it, and to learn about it. Now, a question that I have for my Gemini risings is, are you authentically communicating your thoughts and beliefs? And this is because the sun in Leo is always looking at how we can be more authentic. And of course, the sun has been hanging out in your third house of communication. But suddenly the full moon is activating your higher belief systems. It's not enough to know what you know that's basic and that's something you've been taught maybe your whole life, Gemini rising. But now all of a sudden the moon in Aquarius is like, go find out about other cultures, go learn about other parts of the world, go expand your mind, go think about your philosophy on life in larger, more intricate ways. You might want to start reading different books, start listening to different thought leaders. You might want to go on that trip. Suddenly you feel this urge, like, I just want to go on a trip somewhere I've never been. So as a Gemini rising, pay attention to what it is that your mind and your emotions are urging you to expand upon. Now, I will say that the square with Uranus is activating your house of the subconscious. And because we're dealing with houses that involve communication, thinking, and learning, you might find that more deep subconscious thoughts and feelings are coming up for you during this full moon, and you actually might be having to speak on them. Give yourself some time and grace as Mercury's retrograde, but understand that this might be the opportunity to say what's been deeply on your mind while also looking at how you can expand your mind. I will lastly finish this with just understand that while you might be learning a lot and you might be having to really tap into more deep subconscious thoughts and feelings, the key here, Gemini risings, is to learn from this, to really learn what lessons are coming up for you during the full moon and integrate them so that after the retrograde, which ends on the 28th of August, you can really implement all of the thoughts and the information that you've gathered during this full moon in Aquarius. Okay, Cancer risings, it's your turn. So this full moon is activating your 8th house, which is the house of shared resources. It's also the house of sex, death, taxes, inheritances, your partner's income. If you're married, this would be your spouse's income, and all things that involve intimate energy exchanges. So my question for Cancers, and I know this is probably a question my Cancer risings have had to ponder before, is do I feel safe trusting the people that are closest to me? See, this is a really interesting full moon for Cancer risings because it is a money moon. So I will say that the sun has been moving through your second house of earned income, Cancer rising. So you might have been noticing a larger focus on your sense of self as it relates to your income and the things that you own. But now are you willing to share those things? Because this full moon is getting activated in your 8th house of shared resources, opposite to the area of your life that's much more about the things you accumulate and keep for yourself. So are you hoarding the things that you own, Cancer rising, or are you sharing them to the betterment of the collective? Are you willing to open up and to trust the people that you're sharing this with, to feel like you can be safe with these people, that you can open up with these people? Is this, sorry guys, my phone battery life. Is this something that you feel you can really connect to other people, or are you shying away from being able to share these parts of yourself and your life? Again, like I said, this is activating also the house of intimacy. So are you willing to go there? Are you willing to open yourself up to another person on that level? These are questions I want my Cancer risings to think about. And one other thing I want to say, Cancer risings, is you might receive some unexpected money from your friends or from people in your network as this square to Uranus is activating your house of community and friends. So pay special attention to the friends that come in during this time that might offer you chances and opportunities to accumulate either more money or more resources. But I will say, Cancer risings, the key here is to really think about, am I willing to open up and to share what I have? Am I willing to trust somebody with the things that matter to me? Or am I creating a guard, which Cancer risings can often do, where I don't want to share these things because they're personal to me and I'm not willing to let them go. It is a full moon, a time of release. So Cancer risings, it's okay to let go. It's okay to let go and to welcome in fresh energy that says, hey, I'm here. We can do this together. Let's share this, right? It's not just about what you have. It's about what you can share with other people. Okay, my fellow Leo risings. Leo risings, the full moon is activating the 7th house of committed partnerships and marriage. This is the house of one-to-one partnership and connections and people in our life. Now, the sun has been hanging out in our 1st house, Leo risings. I'm a Leo rising, so I say our. The sun's been hanging out in the 1st house of self. And so with the sun in its home sign in the 1st house of self, the likelihood of us being very focused on ourselves has been very high over the last month. But suddenly the full moon in Aquarius steps in and it's like, hey, can you also consider the other people in your life, Leo rising? You know, this goes back to the committed partnerships in our life, the relationships. If you're married, this goes back to your marriage. And now the full moon is basically asking us to consider the emotional connection and attachment that we have with these people in our life, with those one-to-one partnerships. This is usually a marriage if you are in a relationship, but it also could be business. I've seen this happening where it's clients and business partnerships. Any type of one-to-one partnership that usually does involve some type of legal contract or union. So questions to ask yourself, Leo risings. Am I creating attachment or detachment in these close one-to-one relationships? How can I create deeper emotional connection without sacrificing my sense of self? That's very key here because the sun in the 1st house of self does not want to lose grip of who I am, but the moon is illuminating the need to still connect with another. Other questions, Leo risings, to consider. Are my close relationships allowing me to show up fully in the world? The square to Uranus is happening in the 10th house, Leo rising. So this is now activating your career, your public image. Does my committed relationship, do my partnerships, whether business or otherwise romantic, let's say, create issues in my career, or do they help elevate my career? We might see some random updates when it comes to our position in the world and how it relates to our close one-to-one partnerships. Again, this could involve marriage partners. This could even involve clients that you do one-on-one partnership type of work with. Main thing here, Leo risings, is please be open to change. I know it's tough. It's hard for fixed signs. And like I said before, fixed signs are really getting the brunt of this full moon. But be open to changing the way that you operate in your close one-to-one partnership and allow space to share who you are and not be so focused on yourself that you neglect the other people in your life. Virgo risings, this full moon is activating your 6th house of health, work, service, and all things that revolve around maintenance of the physical body. This is also the house of your day-to-day routines. Now, this is an interesting one because my Virgo risings already are super into health usually. I never have met a Virgo rising that didn't care somewhat about taking care of their physical body. This full moon is really emphasizing that. This is opposite to the sun in your 12th house, which is all about your mental health, which is your subconscious self. So we really are seeing an activation where maybe for the last month, my Virgo risings, you guys have been hiding. You've been in hibernation. You've been really focusing on your mental health, your spiritual health. Now suddenly the full moon is stepping in and saying, but have you hit the gym, girl? Have you made sure that you've taken your vitamins? Are you doing the detoxes and the cleanses? Are you really honoring your temple, or are you just so focused on the inner stuff that you're neglecting the physical stuff? So this is a really great time to release any toxic habits, as full moons are times of releasing the things no longer serving us. And Virgo is great at that. You guys are the best at deciding, if this is not of use to me, I am discarding it. So Virgo risings, get rid of the habits that are not helping yourself to be healthy, that are not helping your physical body to be at its utmost function. This is also the house of service. So Virgo risings, you probably already have a very big focus on service. This is the house of service. And so this is a question where you can ask yourself, am I serving humanity? Because it's Aquarius energy right now, and this is the sign of the humanitarian. Or am I hiding in the shadows, right? And if you have not been serving in the way that you know you could be, whether this be with people in your life, people you work with, your family, your friends, is it out of a place of pride, like I'm not going to help you because that's not for me? Or is it fear of embarrassment? Maybe you just don't want to put yourself out there, right? What is getting in the way of you being able to fully step up and serve those that you know you have the ability to serve? Last but not least, Virgo risings, you might have a sudden radical shift in ideas and belief systems as the square to Uranus is activating your 9th house of higher beliefs. And this change in your belief systems could in many ways alter your day-to-day routines. You might suddenly learn new information during this full moon that changes and alters the way that you go about your day-to-day, how you take care of your body, yourself. Maybe you listen to a podcast that's discussing something involving your health, and you decide to completely change maybe the food you're eating, the water you're drinking, the day-to-day, exercise routine that you follow. Whatever that is for you, Virgo risings, use this full moon as the opportunity to get right with your health, to make sure that you're still working and serving people to your utmost ability, and make sure that you're honoring your temple and allowing for changes and getting rid of those things that are not helping you to be your healthiest self. All right, Libra risings. Libra risings, over the last month during Leo season, you've likely been getting very inspired by your community, by your network, whether this be virtually through social media or in person. It's likely that the people and the friends in your life have been taking up center stage. But now is the time during the full moon to actually take all those lessons and see how you can create something from them. Because the full moon for my Libra risings is showing up in your 5th house, which is the house of creativity, children, dating, and romance. And so this is actually the house of all the things that we create. And in many ways, Libra risings, you are utilizing all of the connections and the people in your life to better help inform the way that you can show up fully in your creativity, in those projects that matter to you, those passion projects. This could be with your children. Maybe you're realizing, I need to focus more on my parenting. Or maybe there's some changes that have to be made in terms of your parenting. Perhaps you learned something from a friend of how they do things when it comes to their kids, and now you're deciding during this full moon, it's time to implement that in my household. This is also the house of dating, Libra risings. I know Libras love dating. You guys are the sign of relationships. This full moon is really activating this house of dating and romance. You might find a revitalization in this area of your life. You might realize, I need to let go of the stagnant dating energy and introduce new dating energy and maybe better romance into my life. You might even realize, I need to connect with more people. And being that Aquarius is the sign of friendship, this could be like dating your friends. Like, hey, I need to get back into my social community and my friend group and really get more connected with the friends that matter to me, that are, people that I really value in my life. Other things, Libra risings, and I do have a question here to consider. How can I use the inspiration of my network and of my community to inform those passion projects and that creative approach in my fifth house? How can you do this? I will say issues of trust could come up during this full moon, as the square to Uranus is activating the eighth house, which does deal with intimate energy exchanges and often requires us to get more comfortable with being vulnerable and trusting those people in our life. So Libra risings, enjoy this full moon as a time of culmination when it comes to your dating, your romance, and ultimately how you can create more in this world. All right, Scorpio risings. Scorpio risings, this full moon in Aquarius is showing up in your fourth house of home and family and your living situation. And like I said before, fixed signs are really feeling this full moon more than all. So really, Scorpio risings, listen in, because this full moon might throw you for a loop. This full moon is activating the area of your life that's so focused on your home life. And it's opposite to the sun, which has been hanging out in your area of career. So it's likely that over the last month, you've been really thinking about how I can show up in the world. What is my title? What's my reputation? Am I showing up fully in my career? Maybe you have been. And now the full moon is stepping in and it's like, hey, but are you checking out what's at home? Are you making sure that you're tending to the people in your family? Maybe this is going to be bringing up some issues from the past, some childhood stuff that you need to readdress, especially during a retrograde, right? So the fourth house is all about the things that exist in my core, at my root, right? The people that raised me, the home I was raised in, the place I'm from. This can even relate back to lineage and ancestry. And so this could even be the full moon for Scorpio risings. I know you guys really are interested a lot of the time in going back over the past. This is a great opportunity to do that during this full moon. But I will say, Scorpio risings, I have a question for you to consider. And it's, is there a way that you can better balance your home and your work? And that can be something that shows up for you during this full moon, when you realize, hey, I've been really thriving in my career, but maybe I've been neglecting things at home. The full moon is going to illuminate if you have been neglecting anything at home. And if you haven't been, then this full moon is going to be a time of celebration. Like, hey, I've really reached a point where I can fully balance my career responsibilities and my home life responsibilities. Now, if you're married, the square to Uranus is activating your house of marriage, Scorpio risings. And so this could also be where your spouse comes in, and that becomes a whole conversation where, is my spouse getting affected by the focus of my career? And maybe I need to spend more time at home and with my spouse or with the people close to me in order to make sure that that balance is met. So this is really the theme, the main key that you as a Scorpio rising are dealing with. Am I making sure I'm honoring my responsibilities in the home space just as much as I've been honoring them in the workspace? Sagittarius rising. Sagittarius risings, this full moon is showing up in your third house. This is all about your local environment. And I know as a Sagittarius, you love exploring new lands. You love expanding your mind and seeing ways that you can experience adventure in all facets of life. And during this full moon, you actually are being brought back into your local environment to look around you and say, hey, but there's beauty right here, right? Because the sun has been hanging out in your ninth house, which is all about your belief systems and traveling to foreign places and experiencing as much as you can and really expanding your mind. Now all of a sudden the full moon is stepping in and it's saying, hey, where can we find exploration where we are? How can we find adventure in our neighborhood, in our local environment? As a Sag rising, this full moon will likely connect you back to your local community, to your neighbors. This could be a time when you reconnect with siblings, or they play a very prominent part in your experience during this full moon. Like I said, traveling is very important, but I really encourage as a Sag rising that you do local trips during this full moon. That could really expand the way you see your neighborhood or your local environment. You actually might have things that you're very interested in learning about that you've been wanting to learn, and now this is the opportunity to actually connect with those things, but do so on a much more immediate level, right? You don't need to go off to, another country, or hop on a plane and go visit another city just to get that same level of adventure. Pick up a book and dive into that book. You'll really experience that same level of adventure, depending on the book, of course. So this is an example of as a Sag rising, where your communication, your thinking, your local environment, these are all getting activated during this full moon. And you might even feel a sudden urge to change the way that you do your day-to-day living as a result of what you might learn during this full moon. So really pay attention to the people in your neighborhood and your community. As a Sag rising, they might bring a lot more illumination to your life than usual. All right, Capricorn rising. Capricorn risings, this full moon is showing up in your second house, which is all about the money that you earn and the feelings that you have of your self-worth and the self-value. So with this full moon, it's likely that you've been so focused on how you can share with others, the ways in which you are exchanging either money or intimacy with other people in your life. This is the full moon to get a little selfish, Capricorn rising. This is the full moon where I want you to look at the things that you have, the money you earn, the items you have either in your home, your closet, even your car, and really take pride in those things. Consider if these things in your life bring you a sense of fulfillment. Do you feel good about how you earn money? Are you proud of the things that you own, your house, your car, right? Or your clothes? Are these things that you feel good about? The full moon is, of course, the moon, right? So emotionally, we might be more drawn to really basically analyzing, does this area of my life match with how I want to feel, right? So that's one thing. Also, do I need to make changes when it comes to my income? That's another question I really encourage Capricorn risings to consider. Could it be that I'm getting so influenced by other areas of my life, perhaps my children or my dating life with the square to Uranus in your fifth house, that maybe I'm not fully honoring the ways that I know I could be accumulating more material resources, aka money? This could be a creative project, which suddenly you're like, I could do something with that. I could make that into something. And it could be that feelings of self worth have been holding you back. Like, I'm not good enough for that. I couldn't do that. But all of a sudden, the full moon in Aquarius is stepping up and it's illuminating those feelings inside of yourself and asking you to really decide, is that true? Is that really true that you can't do a Capricorn rising, or have you just been allowing fear to hold you back? So this is really the opportunity during this full moon to release fear and to feel really good in knowing that you have the ability to attract and to accumulate all the material resources in the world. And this full moon is really elevating that for you. This might be a time where money comes in for you. This might be the time when you get a new source of income popping up and you're like, man, this is exactly what I asked for. I manifested this. Celebrate it, Capricorn rising. I'm very happy to report that for a Capricorn rising, this is a really positive financial moon for you, as well as one that can really help to up and elevate your feelings of self-esteem and self-value. Aquarius rising. Aquarius risings, it is your moon. I know it might not be your actual moon sign, but the moon is in your first house. So as an Aquarius rising, you are essentially like the center stage of this full moon. And in that case, it could be Aquarius risings that you're feeling really emotional, because the moon is our emotions. And when it's full, it's at its brightest, most functioning capacity. And it's in your first house of yourself. And so naturally, as an Aquarius rising, you might be feeling more sensitive during this full moon. You also might be exploring feelings of who I am. Am I happy with who I am? Not just as far as self-worth goes, but genuinely who I am, the way I see myself, the way that others see me. Am I proud of that? Does it feel authentic? These are questions you might be asking yourself. Also, the moon is the way that we nurture ourselves. And the moon in your first house is really asking Aquarius risings to consider, how do you nurture yourself? Are you making sure that you are taken care of, right? Great question to ask yourself as an Aquarius rising. Am I pouring from a full cup or an empty cup? You are the water bearer, right? So naturally, this theme of pouring from an empty cup, as an Aquarius, you're so focused on humanity and service that you might neglect yourself. But as we know, we can't pour from an empty cup. So the main lesson of this full moon for a lot of Aquarius risings listening can be, how can you pour back into yourself? How can you make sure that you're honoring who you feel you truly are and allowing that energy to fully shine and show up for the rest of the world to see and for everybody that you meet to experience? You might also notice that family stuff comes up during this time, as your fourth house is getting activated by the square to Uranus. So this could be your parents or things involving your childhood, where suddenly you might have to be evaluating how those parts of your life have affected and influenced who you are today. Yes, this does include inner child work or shadow work, or even just going back over the past as an Aquarius rising to really consider how has the past made me more of who I am, which is the focus of this full moon Aquarius risings. Who am I? Do I feel proud about this? And am I making sure that I'm nurturing who I am? And that way I'm able to fully give to the rest of the world based on that level of nurturing and self-care. All right, Pisces risings, last but certainly not least, this is the full moon that's activating your house of alone time, of your subconscious, of your dreams. Pisces risings, please use this full moon as a chance to go inward. This is the opportunity to say, I need some time to myself. Because the full moon is activating your house of spirituality, isolation, and mental health, you might be really evaluating these deeper, more complex components of your psyche, of your emotional body, and how your emotions and how you feel on a very deep subconscious level, how are they affecting your mental health? All of that is showing up as a Pisces rising during this full moon. You might have been super focused over the last month while the sun has been in your 6th house of health. And maybe you've been really focused on taking care of your physical body. You've been in the gym, you've been eating right. The full moon steps in and says, okay, great. I know you've been taking care of your physical body, but are you taking care of your emotional body? Are you taking care of your spiritual body? Are you honoring those spiritual practices that bring you deeper, closer to yourself? As a Pisces rising, it is essential to be in touch with your spirituality. It's essential to take alone time anyway. But during this full moon, that is actually what the universe is asking you to do. You really need to take time inwardly to assess how you feel. This is not something you need to share with the world. This is not a conversation you have to have with anybody else but yourself, Pisces rising. You might find that you get new information during this time as the square with Uranus is activating your 3rd house of communication and information. You might find that new information comes up. Maybe a circumstance happens with your neighbors or your siblings, or again, just new information that you learn, and it changes how you feel on a deep subconscious level. You might actually want to pay attention to your dreams during this time, Pisces rising, as the full moon is activating the house of your dreams. And they can be communicating information to you that really alters and changes the way you approach your mental health, your spiritual health, and overall how you take care of yourself. So really, Pisces rising, the key of this full moon is to go inward and to make sure that you are honoring your spiritual self and taking that time to really get in touch with your deeper emotional feelings. And that wraps us up, you all. Again, this is a very jam-packed cosmic week. Again, I do have a forecast that is going over everything else happening this week, including a cazimi, including an opposition with Venus and Saturn, and a huge, very significant square between Jupiter and Saturn. All of that is in the forecast for the week, as I'm sure a lot of you have been keeping up to date. Make sure you check that out too, because you're going to also get deeper insights into the energy for the that's accompanying this full moon in Aquarius. So with that being said, thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope you got value from this video, and if you did, make sure you hit the like button and that you of course are already subscribed so you can stay up to date as I do post a new horoscope during each and every new and full moon. With that being said, y'all, have a wonderful week, and I will see you all again in the next video.